What's up guys, Brandon Johnson here again, and thanks for joining me. Today I'm joined by one of my good friends, incredible musician, and one of my bandmates in Kind Country, Mike Hedding from MikeHeddingMusic.com.
Good to be here.
It's great to have you here. We're going to be covering some basic concepts that we've kind of acquired over our many years of playing this bluegrass style of music. And
we were chatting at band practice, right? And
Yeah.
I know I had some questions about how to transition from backup to your solo and how to get successfully out of your solo into backup. And
Yep.
Brandon said, hey, I've actually had a couple of those same questions. So we thought it'd be perfect. You can't really demonstrate lead and backup by yourself, right? So you need another musical partner to help. So that's where we're going to work on this one together.
Yeah, and we're going to cover that, and we're going to cover 9-pound hammer. We're going to kind of use that as an example. We're going to look at a couple other concepts too, transitioning from rhythm to lead, and kind of some general concepts about vamping. And vamping is where you sort of, you can call it riffing. You take maybe one or two notes and kind of repeat them in a syncopated way in time to either create, some space for you to think, or to create some space for, the other players to think.
Yeah, or the vocalist to get back into the next verse or chorus. Yep.
So hopefully this helps you out, and I hope you enjoy this one. Let's check it out.
So the tune we chose to illustrate this topic is the classic bluegrass song 9-Pound Hammer. And this is a really good one because it uses the 3 standard chords, the 1, 4, and 5 in whatever key you're playing in. And it has basically an 8-measure phrase that gets repeated over and over again. So it gives you a lot of chances to get into your solo and get out of your solo and get back into backup and get into your solo. This is a really good one. It's a jam standard. You're definitely going to come across this tune if you've been going to some jam sessions. So let's break down 9-Pound Hammer.
Generally, 9-pound hammer is, I think it's played usually in the key of A, although I've heard...
either A or G, probably.
You're in the G position. I mean, on guitar, you're in the G position.
Yeah, well, actually, same with banjo.
Yeah.
So we both got our cheaters on capo too, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So 9-pound hammer is a 1-4-5 chord progression, generally. Your chords are A, D, and E. If you're capo 2, that's going to be a G shape, a C shape, and a D shape.
So it's really important to know not only the capo chords, but it's also, I always tell my students, it's really important to know the real chords.
Yeah.
Because if you yell G to a bass player or a fiddle player, that's not going to help them at all. Right. So I always say it's the responsibility of the person with the capo to know the real chords, and then you're modifying them to make them play for your capo. So the real chords, again, are A, D, and E. Capo chords are G, C, and D. Because we're probably going to call the capo chords when we call the song, but just to know that the real chords are A, D, and E. So let's just play through it really slowly, okay? 1, 2, ready, go, G. C. Back to G. Quick D. One time through the form. G. C. G. Quick D. So what we really want to focus on is, it's good practice to play through the whole song, but there's 2 measures of G at the end of the solo before it starts over. And that's really... we wanted to give you an overview of the whole song, but let's really zoom in and focus on that one part of the song, the 2 measures of G at the very end of the solo, because that's where your pickup to your solo would be, but that's also where you would transition into your backup. So it's basically the same 2 measures of G, and it's really important to know what we're working with and how much time we have, because then you can make your intro longer, shorter. You know, we know the bounds of what we're working in, and then we can hopefully be creative within that. So remember, we're talking about the 2 measures of G at the end of the solo before it starts over. That's where you're going to do your pickup to your solo, and that's where you're going to transition back into your backup. So yeah, should we break down a little bit what we did there?
For sure. Yeah. I know for me, you know, I like you said, a clean handoff. So I don't want it to sound like it's falling off a cliff dynamically. You know, you're coming out of a rhythm part. You're coming out of strumming. So you want to kind of ease into your solo. You don't want to just stop strumming and then start soloing. I mean, you could do that. But for me, I like to, you know, like let's say I'm strumming that kind of pattern. Well, one thing I might do is use the octave here. So there's that tuning trick that everybody knows where, you know, I have the capo on 2 right now, but on the 5th fret here, if you hold a note on the 5th fret, the note underneath it is the octave.
So I'm doing that same thing, actually.
Yeah. And that's really common in bluegrass, I think, where I like to do the slide from, you know, 2nd fret D to 5th fret D. And that syncopation there, that matches the strumming that I'm coming out of. So I'm coming out of...
Yeah, so that's a smooth transition. So you're basically transitioning from strumming across the strings to playing that rhythm on one string.
On one string, exactly. And I like to think of the fretboard as kind of divided up horizontally between the low strings and the high strings. So if I'm doing on the low strings and then I'll do the same here.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, the other thing is I almost think of when I'm doing that, in this case, G, D, G, I'm almost getting ready for my solo. I think you have to be, the solo can come up pretty quick on you, so you got to be ready as well. And obviously, the faster the song is, the more you got to kind of look ahead and be ready for your solo. I think too, if you're in a larger jam session, it's totally fine to stop strumming. And kind of switch into your lead position.
Definitely.
You know, it's obviously, if we're just playing us two, you have to kind of smooth it out a little bit more. But I think that's another tool you can use is just stop strumming for a second, get ready for your solo, and then jump in. I think the biggest thing too is just being really confident with your pickup. You know, so when I do my kickoff, you know, I'm really trying to, I kind of think of it like the drummer, you know, hitting their sticks to set the tempo. And I think that's really important is, even if you're not always right with your kickoff, if you play it really confidently, at least everyone's going to know where you were trying to go, and they can hopefully follow you with that.
And we do that a lot in kind country. You set the tempo that way with the pickups a lot.
And that's super
really
important. I mean, just getting everyone on the same page of what the rhythm is. And I would do that in the middle of a solo too. You know, it's totally fine to reset that tempo every time you basically hand off the solo. Nice.
Definitely.
What about playing longer or shorter intros to your solo? Should we mess with that at all?
So you mean like a longer pickup going to the solo as opposed to
because basically, you know, the simplest one is kind of the you know 2 3 4 1, you know, but you could also extend that out even another measure back if you wanted to, which could be kind of cool.
And so to extend it out, but to make it not, you don't want to start your solo necessarily there, but you just kind of you're making a longer pickup into your solo.
Exactly.
Okay.
So maybe I could do something like
why don't you demonstrate that?
So I actually started my solo my pickup another measure early and played a little bluesy. And then I do my pickup. So that's another thing you can mess with as well. I always think of, okay, where do I have to get to? I want to get to my open 3rd string in this case, same for you, is our starting melody note. So basically, once we find our target that we want to hit, we can, you know, back, you know, depending on how far we want to go back, we can lead up into that intro. And as long as we get to that target note at the right time, the pickup, whatever you play, will work out.
And I like that because it gets you into a soloing mindset before the spotlight's on you. So you have more time to prepare too.
And I think more time to set the rhythm, or get the rhythm of the solo in your head too, can be really valuable.
And to remind the other musicians.
Exactly.
Of the timing as well.
All right, so let's do a couple examples for the banjo. And there's actually kind of a lot of similarities between banjo kickoffs and guitar kickoffs, so there might be a little bit of overlap here, but let me do a couple of intros on how I would get into my solo. So I'll do, the first one I'll do is very basic, so here we go. You want to count it off?
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so let's break those down. So for the first one, I just kept it super classic. Remember, our target note that we're trying to get up to is the open third string, if I'm in tune there. But, so I'm just going to walk up. So remember, we have 2 measures of G at the end of the solo. So I use the first measure for my classic Scruggs fill lick. He probably did the G run there, so again, that's a perfect spot for us to link up.
Yep.
And then there's a pause on beat 1, and then I'm playing on the and of beat 1. So 1 and then I'm hitting the open 4th string twice, and then the 2nd fret, and then a big pinch. And I really like using those pinches. Again, it adds another level of power to your solo. It's kind of like a pow, you know, it just kicks into the solo. So that's something I use a lot. So we have. You could also do another version of that, would be the same thing, and then do a 2-5 slide instead. So that basically give you 2 options there. So you got one more if you want it a little bluesier. You can use the 3rd fret instead of the 2nd fret. Gives you a little flavor.
Sure.
So that's the first one I did. Let's break down the second one. So the second one's a classic bluesy lick. We're going to come from above the note instead of below the note walking up. We're basically going to do a little bluesy lick and kind of come down to the note. So I'm basically kind of thinking in this F position over here, kind of like my F chord, and I'm just going to use the top 2 fingers, my first finger on the 1st fret, 2nd string, my pinky up on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. I'm going to do a forward reverse roll. And then I'm bending that 3rd fret, which sounds really cool. And then pinching again. So you have, so I'd be, that's what I did for the second one. And for the third one, I used both measures. So I didn't wait a measure and then play a 1 measure kickoff. I actually did a 2 measure kickoff. So I did kind of what I would call more of a rolling kickoff. So instead of doing like pinches, I basically did like a rolling lick. And that's something I like to do a lot. And you kind of did it with when you were kind of doing your shuffle picking.
Yeah.
But it's basically kind of the banjo equivalent of that. Rather than just starting with pinches, you're basically kind of rolling into your solo to help yourself get the rhythm and get those subdivisions of the beat that's really important to nailing the first part of your solo. So remember, you got 2 measures to work with, so you can make it longer, you can make it shorter, you can make it bluesy, you can come from below the note, you can come from above the note. You got a bunch of options. What I would do is just try a bunch of stuff, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, and see what you get. And it's not all going to stick, it's not all going to sound great right away, but that's what we're working on in this lesson.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do a couple examples of some outros.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4.
So let's break those down. So the first one I did was basically just getting back into vamping. And I did this in the performance that we did at the very beginning of the video, so I thought this would be a really good one to break down. I like to go into this vamping pattern, especially when there's just two of us. You know, if it's a bigger jam, you might be able to get away with some more rolling, but if Brandon is singing or taking a solo, that there's a lot of rhythm that goes away when he starts taking his solo. So that's a really good spot for me to basically go into this vamping to basically give him a little bit more rhythmic support.
Yeah.
So what I did at the end of my solo that time is I just I played a little lick, and then I did my Scruggs lick, and then I did a little walk up. That's just a nice little way to walk into that vamping. So I'm doing my Scruggs fill lick, and then hitting the open 4th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string, 4th fret, and then I'm walking up. And I'm doing that with my 1st and 3rd finger, which gets me into my chord, and then I can continue with my vamping. So that's a really good, just doing that little bass walk. You can actually do that as an intro to your solo as well, but I think it's a little smoother to do it back into your vamping pattern. So that's what I like to do there.
Yeah, and I like those when you're muting those vamps too.
That's another thing I do. Yeah,
that's a good way to set the tempo. And I know when we play live on stage, when I hear those vamps, those kind of muted vamps, I know that the tempo is probably dragging.
And that's where I usually try, and that's where I'm just trying to provide myself some support, and I do that a lot when a mandolin player is soloing too, because that's the mandolin chop drops out, and that's an easy spot for the banjo or the violin player, fiddle player to move into that role, basically take over that missing piece of the puzzle. Yeah. So for the second outro I basically just went into rolling. So you don't always have to go back into vamping, which you can, but basically you can just hang out and just roll. And that's, again, another good way to set the tempo or recalibrate or figure out where you're at, figure out what verse it is, you know. So that's again, what I like to go into. So I did a little lick again. Different patterns of that roll. You can hit your open 3rd string and then 2-5 slide, or you can do the slide to start. Again, you can use the 2nd fret or 3rd fret if you want a bluesier. And I just call those generic backup rolls. Basically, it's something that's not going to get in the way of the melody.
Right.
You could play a solo over that. I'm kind of adding this little rolling in the background, but I'm not playing lots of licks or changing the pitches a whole bunch that's going to get in the way. Sure. So that's what I did for that one. And then for the last one, I played this little vamping lick. And then I went into just a classic rolling backup. So I usually like to kind of give myself an overall picture of what I might play for that backup. Do I want to do vamping? If I want to do kind of just down the neck rolling backup. The other thing you can think about with your backup is you kind of want to stay away from the lead or the melody part, right? So the melody walks up. So I probably wouldn't want to play that exactly for my backup, right? I want to maybe stay away from that. So one thing I can do is come up to these higher notes. And that kind of gets me out of the way of basically of the soloist. That's another thing I think about with backup is you basically kind of, if the melody's down low, you want to keep your backup up higher. If the lead goes up high, then you want to keep the backup down low. And obviously that's a general principle you can use, but kind of a good principle to follow is you don't want to play the exact same notes that the lead person is playing. Usually you kind of want to let them play those notes because it's the lead, and then your backup is going to complement what they're doing. Absolutely. So that's another thing I think about when I'm getting back into my backup is staying away from where the lead person's going to be, basically. Sure. So, and that takes practice, obviously. You know, if you're ever in doubt, just go back to your pinches or your basic strum or whatever it is. I call it my safety net, you know. So get back into your find your safety net, and then you can explore out as you're feeling more confident.
Absolutely.